Who in here is a seafood person? If you remember from speech 3, I discussed the pros and cons of privatization. I talked about the pros, that there was a long-term conservation by saving marine life and helps with the overfishing problem. It also avoids tragedy of the commons, where you have a common resources and individuals will want to get the biggest share of that resource. And I also talked about the cons, socioeconomic problems, such as fishermen losing their jobs, and catch shares, which is regional fisheries are being forced under a management system that pushes smaller scale fishermen out of jobs. And there is also a money problem. Moreover, I talked about how this is a relevant topic because it affected other industries such as boat repairs and restaurant chains. Good evening. My name is Kapalungan, and I am going to tell you reasons why privatization of oceans are not a good option. I'll compare other examples of privatizing that have problems, how it's mainly for a profit, and consumers getting an undervalued deal due to privatization. I believe we should not let the government control over our oceans because these larger corporations will exploit the oceans to make a profit rather than conserving resources, which makes matters worse. So first, let me remind you what privatization is. Privatization is the transfer of ownership of property or businesses from a government to a privately owned entity. So, now that we have established that, let's talk about the examples of privatization. First being privatization of prisons. According to international growth trends in privatizing prisons, advocates promise low-cost, quality detention services when government resources were being strained under increasing prison populations. However, companies managing these facilities have faced persistent criticism for providing low-quality services, failing to save the taxpayer money, and negatively affecting criminal justice policy. Another example is privatization of healthcare. According to an article, Private Health Insurance. Private insurance is more expensive than most options. Some private insurance only pays up to 80% of cost of care. As a result, there are still several out-of-pocket expenses that patients must budget. This brings us to money. It's all about the money. As mentioned earlier about privatization of oceans, opponents argue that these companies' goals are to make a profit. When looking at the privatization of education, Forbes magazine states the charter school movement began as a grassroots attempt to improve public education, but it's now quickly becoming a backdoor for corporate profit. Most major corporations' true goal is to make a profit no matter the costs. Now that we understand this, we can talk about undervalued goods. In an article, The Pros and Cons of Privatization mentions that one of the downsides to privatization may result in lower quality of goods. Through my other examples, we can go back to privatization of prisons, how advocates promised quality services. However, when it got down to it, they provided poor quality service and failure to save taxpayer money. This is why fisheries should be able to do their own catching. Fishermen should be a key part to the management process. According to Fish Inc., they state that this management is far better than cap shares because it is fair and equitable, and it maintains public control of the resource, minimizes damage to the environment, and a better product for consumers. In conclusion, in the topic of privatizing oceans, the disadvantages certainly outweigh the advantages. While there seem to be good intentions, such as conserving the oceans and controlling overfishing, many fishermen will be out of jobs. It's also no guarantee that the products will be good quality for consumers. Moreover, leaving the decisions to be made by a corporate company can be disastrous, considering how these companies just want to make a profit, as shown from examples such as prisons and education and healthcare. I hope to inform you about the issue and can agree from what I've shown through my research. In the end, we live in a country where the individual should be able to thrive in a business without government involvement. Thank you.